Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lipstick and Cyber podcast brought to you by F12.net. I'm your host, Maheen, and it's great to have you with us as we continue our mission to empower small businesses across Canada. Today, we're going to dive into the world of technology leadership and platform engineering and how these areas are so crucial for the growth and sustainability of businesses, both large and small. We're very thrilled to have Anne Steptoe as our guest for this episode and is a VP of Platform Engineering at Wealthsimple, and where she leads several key teams, including developer tools, data and ML platform, infrastructure, and IT. And with over 20 years of experience in technology and has played a significant role in shaping product development, enterprise architecture, platform engineering, and more. And before joining Wealthsimple, she held senior roles at Pelmorex, the parent company of the Weather Network, and will share her journey and insights with us today into the ever-evolving world of technology and business. Welcome, and it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. How are you?
Thanks, Maheen. I am doing really well. Thank you.
And we're really excited to hear about your experiences in the platform engineering and the incredible work that you're doing at Wealthsimple. Your expertise in leading diverse teams and really driving innovation in the tech space is something we're very eager to learn more about. Now, to begin things with, and your journey into IT and specialization in platform engineering and cybersecurity is so fascinating. And the technology landscape is quite vast, but choosing to focus on these critical areas speaks to your passion and expertise. What really motivated you to really specialize in platform engineering and cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I started out probably as a lot of developers do in product development. So building features, building new products, enhancements, things like that, bug fixes throughout the majority of my career. When I went to the Weather Network, I got to experience a different side of engineering. So automation, creating continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines, working with Kubernetes, and a lot of those tools that are more in the realm of DevOps. And so that's how I started to get into the infrastructure world. And within the infrastructure world, there is a lot of, I would say, really a lot more focus on security and making sure that the platform is secure, your infrastructure is secure, and that everything is reliable for the products that you're gonna be running there. And so that's how I began to get into the platform engineering and cybersecurity world. Was when I was at the Weather Network, going through those types of modernization initiatives at the company. And when Wealthsimple called me, back in, I think it was 2021, they had a role for a infrastructure leader, and that's when I moved over to Wealthsimple, and like you said, led some teams like DevTools, which again is focusing on those automated pipelines and making sure we can build and test our products very quickly, safely, confidently, and securely, and then really focusing on making sure that we have a infrastructure that's secure and reliable. And so working a lot with my team in platform engineering here at Wealthsimple works a lot with the security team. That's a different department here, but we work very closely together to make sure that we have those controls and making sure that our data is secure, private, and the infrastructure is really well maintained.
Right. Your journey is truly inspiring, and it's clear that your experiences and the pivotal moments have really shaped you into a leader who is deeply committed to advancing tech and security. Were there any pivotal moments or key projects that significantly influenced your career path?
Yeah. So going back to the Weather Network, one of the reasons I came into this type of role is because we were migrating a legacy monolithic application into a microservices infrastructure, from hardware to containers, moving from on-prem to the cloud. And so, like, all of those migrations are usually big by themselves, but doing them all at once within this company was really not just educational, but eye-opening in terms of all of the things that you had to, think about, things that you had to consider. And so, especially again, on the security aspect of things, things like identity and access management on the cloud, service to service communication between microservices, cloud security and application security. Those are all things that I, didn't necessarily have to think about before as just doing pure product development and not being on that side of the fence in engineering.
Mhm.
But that project was, key and pivotal in helping me understand all the different aspects of security and infrastructure that I needed to learn.
No, it's so inspiring to see how focusing on areas of passion and expertise can really lead to such an impactful leadership. And listeners, for those of you that are navigating your own career paths, please remember that the decisions that you make today can really shape the future of your industry and your own personal growth. Now, Anne, with your role at Wealthsimple, I imagine there is a great deal of responsibility in coordinating across various teams, especially when it comes to upholding robust security practices. As a leader of multiple teams at Wealthsimple, how do you really ensure that security practices are consistently implemented across all departments?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that we don't normally think about, but is really, really important, is education. So, Wealthsimple actually has a great program. It's called a security journey. So, it's an online program, education training that you have to take. Actually, when you first start at Wealthsimple, I think you have 3 months, and you have to take the security journey white belt. So it goes through like a series of modules where you can learn about security, application security, phishing, all of those types of things that you need to worry about in the cybersecurity world. And then if you finish your white belt, which is the mandatory one, you can go and do optional lessons in, like yellow belt and kind of get on to your black belt. So I think that's a great program that we have everybody who starts at Wealthsimple, whether you're an engineer or, in human resources or whatever, you have to take this white belt.
Mhm.
So that's a great like level set. And then on top of that, in terms of our development process, we have application security where teams where we help service owners to threat model and make sure that they have the right things in place for their application to be secure. We have automated checks for vulnerabilities, daily and hourly as we build new products. And then just providing visibility to these vulnerabilities across engineering so that people are aware. And then building in the guardrails. So we have checks to make sure that we are not introducing anything new in our like new vulnerabilities in our environment, and doing those checks to prevent code from going out with those types of vulnerabilities.
Right. That's so impressive how you navigate such complex challenges while maintaining high security standards. Can you please provide like an example of a challenging situation and how you navigated to maintain security standards?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to the security journey and that education training, it's actually not that easy to make sure that everybody who comes in and all like 1,100 people in our employee base takes this. And so we actually had to. I think the challenge was making sure that we communicated that this was mandatory, and
Mhm.
b providing a combination of carrots and sticks to make sure that people were doing what's expected of them in terms of finishing this white belt. And
Right.
so the carrots are like, hey, here's a contest for the teams that reach like 100% of white belt and their staff. Or the carrot is, if you haven't finished it after your 3 months, like somebody in senior leadership will email you and say, hey, how come you haven't finished your security journey white belt? So I think that combination, it's always a challenge to get 100% adoption. But it was something that we were able to do.
Leadership really plays a pivotal role in keeping everything on track. Now, and the cybersecurity landscape has been rapidly evolving, and it's so crucial to stay ahead of these threats. Um, what are some of the biggest cybersecurity threats that you've seen evolve over the past years, and how do you predict these threats will change in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've seen is really the rise in exploits and ransomware that have been occurring. You hear about this in the news, fairly regularly now, and it's really scary, to be in that situation. I think that with the tools and knowledge that people have gained over the years, it's continuously rising. I predict that they'll actually continue to rise, just because people are getting more creative. You have now AI and Gen AI to potentially help, these bad actors with this kind of work. And so as a company, as a business, we just have to be a lot more vigilant and again put a lot more controls in place to minimize the risk on the business.
Right. Now, your insights into the future of cybersecurity and, they're both enlightening and a bit sobering. It's so clear that staying proactive and informed will be key to addressing these evolving threats. And for everyone listening, especially those involved in running a business, it's so crucial to stay ahead of these emerging threats because cybersecurity isn't just a technical issue. It's a fundamental part of protecting your business and your customers. And again, staying informed and really being proactive is key to navigating these challenges successfully. Now, and every company, regardless of size, needs to prioritize cybersecurity. And for many, knowing where to start can be a bit overwhelming. And our listeners would really appreciate your expert advice on best practices for enhancing cybersecurity. So, please, what are the best practices that you would recommend to companies that are looking to enhance their cybersecurity posture?
Yeah, I mean, I think one best practice is really having a dedicated function. I think that in the past, some companies, especially as you know, when you're smaller and as you grow, maybe have it as a side of desk function where it's an additional responsibility on the existing product development engineering teams. But I think having a separate function of security where people are, A, they have the right expertise, and B, they're very focused on making sure that they're increasing the company's security posture is really important. And
Hmm.
so that would be my first thing is just make sure it's a focused effort and not something that, you ask as an additional responsibility or task. And I think the second, best practice I would recommend is just really keeping up to date. As I mentioned, like things happen so quickly in the space. There's new vulnerabilities happening. There's new threats, but there's also new tools and there's new, technology that can help companies protect themselves. So I think always keeping up to date on what's happening in the industry is really important.
And it's so encouraging to know that even with limited resources, businesses can take meaningful steps to protect themselves. But how can smaller companies with limited resources effectively implement these practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a small company, again, I think starting with one, with that focus is doable. It's not something that you necessarily have to scale right away, but at least having a focus that goes side by side with your product development goals and that work that you do, your operational the operational work that you do is important. And so, yeah, starting like with that one resource and then helping grow that team as the company scales is one way I would ask smaller companies to start.
No, the practical advice that you've shared is so invaluable. And on that note, I'd really like to take a moment to speak directly to our audience, especially those who might be feeling overwhelmed by the idea of, enhancing cybersecurity. So, listeners, Anne's advice is a great reminder that no matter the size of your business, there are practical steps that you can take to protect yourself. So, don't be discouraged. Even if the resources are limited, please focus on the most critical areas first and then build from there because even small actions can make big difference in your overall security posture. Now, and data security and privacy are more crucial, as I should say, critical than ever, especially for a platform like Wealthsimple. How does Wealthsimple ensure that security and privacy of its users' data?
Yeah, so Wealthsimple takes privacy of especially client data very seriously. We have multiple facets in our strategy. So again, starting with education, making sure that people understand, the threats out there that employees can potentially be at risk for things like phishing, scams, things like that is really important to understand. And that education and training again is a good foundation. Partnering, so my team platform engineering partners very closely with security, with legal and other engineering groups to make sure that we're limiting access, so making sure that only the people who have the purpose to see that data can actually see that type of confidential data. We make sure that we are purging data when required, when we no longer need to retain them. Again, that adds another layer of security because if the data is not there, it can't be stolen. And then implementing various controls across the application and the infrastructure, and even in their processes to make sure that we keep data that needs to be confidential, private. We are also SOC 2 compliant. So Wealthsimple goes through, regular audits and reporting, providing evidence to make sure that we are protecting client data and our environment is secure.
Mhm.
And then lastly, We implement various tools to increase our security across infrastructure and during application development and when it's in production. So having all those controls in place is another key way of protecting client data.
Right. Now, are there any innovative technologies or methods that you're particularly excited about in this area?
Yeah, I know one thing that we've been looking at is really about, again, reducing vulnerabilities. So hardening images are for our applications so that we can reduce vulnerabilities across the entire platform. And so we're looking at multiple tools that allow this. And yeah, we're in the POC phase right now with some of these tools, and just excited about what kind of a security that can bring, but also b reduction of toil across of our engineering teams.
Mhm. Now, I mean, it's so reassuring to hear about the innovative methods that OneSimple is using to safeguard user data, and your commitment to privacy and security truly sets a high standard in the industry. Now, dealing with cybersecurity incidents requires a well-orchestrated response plan, and we are so curious to know how WhatSimple handles these situations. And could you please walk us through a typical incident response process at WellSimple?
Yeah, so I think the first thing I'll say is that our incident response process is much easier now that we have the right tools in place in order to report and track incidents. So the first thing that would happen if an incident is detected is that we would declare it, and everybody across the company is actually encouraged to declare an incident whenever they see, even if they're not sure if it's an incident, just declare it, because I think that's the first step in making sure that we deploy the resources that we have to a validate that it's an incident, and then b to resolve it if it is. And so declare an incident first through our incident management tool. Makes it very easy. We can do it through Slack. We can do it through the console. And so it's like right at your fingertips. And so once the incident is declared, then we page the appropriate teams and people to come and join the incident channel. So we create a Slack channel, but also we start a like a video conference call, a Google Meet, and so we invite or page everybody who either impacted or can help resolve the incident into these channels, into this video conference call. And that's where the triage starts. You start to the team starts to figure out what's going on. What's the severity of the incident? What's the current client impact that's happening? Is it something that we have to mitigate and stop? In lack of a better word, stop the bleeding, versus like, is it something where it could be resolved very quickly? Once it's resolved, then we sort of that's not the end of it. We maybe stop the video conference, but then we go on and do the postmortem. So the retrospective of the incident is also really important to ensure that we're learning from it. That any action items to prevent the incident from happening again is taken, and then to share the learnings to the the entire engineering org, so that they can also understand ways that they can prevent these things from happening in the future, but also learn from any additional like important takeaways that we have out of that incident.
The lessons you've shared from handling cybersecurity incidents offer invaluable insights, and it's so clear that these experiences have significantly shaped your approach to security at Wealthsimple. All right, Anne, let's kind of spice things up with a rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you a series of quick questions, and I'd love for you to answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Question one: what does a typical day look like for you, especially in terms of managing IT and cybersecurity responsibilities?
Yeah, so a typical day is lots of meetings where I provide context, answer questions. Yeah, I would say that's a typical day.
Do you have any specific routines or habits that help you stay focused and efficient in your role?
Yes, I definitely try to get some focused time in the morning. So at the beginning of my day, I will try to have, an hour or 2 hours in the morning to either plan out my day, to work on some, heads down, focus time things that I need to concentrate on. And that helps me to, just really have a really good foundation for the day.
hmm Now, how do you manage the demanding nature of cybersecurity work and maintain a healthy work life balance?
Yeah, I think it's important to schedule that quality time with, your family and your friends, and the quality time to also look after yourself. Because if you don't do that, then you're not going to be able to, kind of thrive in the next day.
Absolutely. What activities or hobbies do you enjoy outside of work to decompress and relax?
I really love watching movies and I love reading books. So those are the two things I do.
What's your favorite cybersecurity tool or software that you use regularly?
I would say I think one of the most important cybersecurity tools, which I don't know if everybody considers it a tool, is multi-factor authentication because
Mhm.
it's just
I
so
love that.
good.
Yes. It
Yeah,
just it makes you feel comfortable using
exactly.
using an app. What's your okay, are there any cybersecurity blogs, podcasts, or resources that you follow to stay updated?
I don't have any specific ones, but our security team actually posts, every couple of weeks the latest news in our
There
Slack
you go.
channel, and so that's
Yes.
always really helpful.
You're the one to give people updates. You don't get updates. Okay. What's that one beauty product that you can't live without, especially during your long work days?
Lip balm.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one, especially during the winter times. Now, Anne, if you could create a beauty product inspired by cybersecurity, what it would be and what would it do?
I was gonna say I don't know, but I actually thought of something.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So let's say like if you okay, I don't paint my nails, but if my nails were painted, it would be cool to have like nail polish that actually like is reflects like your brain's ability to determine whether you are seeing an email that is like a phishing email or like a phishing text. And so it'll
Okay.
change color if like your brain is like alerting you that like, oh, be careful with this email.
That's a very smart one. I like that. It's innovative, and you never know. With future, progressing too much, we may have something like that
Right.
in the coming years. But how do you stay camera ready for video calls and meetings, especially on hectic days?
I think like Zoom camera filters are really, really great that way.
It is a good one. Do you have any beauty routines or self-care tips that you'd like to unwind after dealing with intense cybersecurity challenges?
Yeah, I think just like winding down and having that downtime, quiet space to just reflect and process things is really important. Again, to just sustain your ability to be resilient.
Who has been your biggest inspiration in the field of cybersecurity?
I'd say one of my colleagues. So he's Nick Alex is the head of security here at Wealthsimple, and he has written a couple of books on cybersecurity, and he's always at conventions and talking about this topic, and he just like lives and breathes it. So he's his inspiration.
Oh, what's the best piece of advice, of cybersecurity advice, I should say, you've ever received?
So going back to like making sure things are secure, I think always using strong passwords and always using multi-factor authentication is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. Just because it increases your security by, like multiple times.
And how has this advice particularly impacted your career and the way you approach cybersecurity?
Yeah. So in terms of products that we build, it's making sure that they have that multi-factor authentication built in, and that you're encouraging both your employees and your clients to follow the same advice of strong passwords and multi-factor.
And it was so much fun. I mean, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. I mean, your insights into platform engineering, leadership, and the evolving world of cybersecurity have been both enlightening and inspiring. And we've dealt into multiple topics. I mean, very critical topics that are sure to resonate with our listeners today, and providing them with practical takeaways that they can apply to their own businesses. Again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Maheen.
And that was the end of our discussion with Anne Steptoe. where we delved into some critical topics that are sure to resonate with you all, providing you with practical takeaways you can apply to your own businesses. A big thank you to our sponsors, F12.net, for their continued support in making this podcast possible. Their dedication to empowering businesses with cutting-edge IT solutions truly makes a difference. And to our listeners, please don't forget to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our website, canadiansme.ca. We'll be back soon with more valuable insights and stories to help you on your business journey. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you with us in our next episode.